No.
I'll be right there.
Where's the best way to sit?
Okay. Hi, beautiful.
Trying to figure out, I have all these rainbows coming in. Can you see them?
Yeah. Is the sun coming through or what?
That's so cool. Look at that. See? That's 1 point. Dun, dun. Like angel wings.
That's wild. Do you think it's reflecting off the glass behind you?
Yeah, there's a skylight right above. I kind of like it. Special effects.
Maybe it's the glass. Oh, going again. So welcome everyone to Connect and Create. Are we at episode 56 now? I think this is episode 56. I'm Karina Sephora, and it has been a year of Connect and Creates. Connect and Create is something that I began at the start of the pandemic, when really something that I noticed that I missed was being with other artists and being able to be in communication and, see people, of course, at art openings and lectures and whatnot. And so I thought I would create a virtual space to connect and create with other people, artists especially. We have a few returning people. Betsy comes every single week. And Diana, this is
the community we were just talking about.
Yeah, we were just talking about exactly how important it is to have community. So this was Connect and Create was my, I'm just going to say, attempt at creating a space for creating a community on our newfound virtual platform. Not that it was newfound, but it was new to being used so regularly. And I'd like to say a warm thank you to Fulton County Council for the Arts for the generous grant that I received to support all of the programming that we do here. So without further ado, Diana, is there anything that you would like to say to our audience here? We have a number of people that are, I believe, dear friends of yours, as well as our live Zoom audience as well. I mean, our live Facebook audience.
Thanks for joining, everybody. I'm still trying, and thanks for having me back. This is fun, especially because I like to talk about art and stuff like this. And I just want to make sure I can share this with my audience. Do I have to? Do you tag me in it? Do I have to share it to show on my page while it's live? I want to make sure I have all the technical.
You can double check, but you're tagged on it, and so it should be airing on your page simultaneously with my page.
I do not see there, and I would love, because I know I will get more questions like that. I want to make sure.
Great. Well, while Diana is taking a look at that, I am going to share Diana's a little bit more formally about Diana. So Diana Toma, you're a full-time artist making a living exclusively out of painting related activities. Born and raised in Eastern Europe, Romania, you moved west to New York City in 2006 and later put down roots here in Georgia, in the greater Atlanta region, influenced by the European culture and enriched with American flavor. Your artistic style blends with traditional techniques in a contemporary fashion. Holding a master's degree in fine arts, you have participated since 1995 in over 100 art exhibitions that include 8 individual solo art shows. And your paintings have been featured in magazines, online publications, and commissioned for display in public spaces. Winning an array of awards, you are a guest interviewed for podcasts and in the printed press, and invited to speak on behalf of the working artists on panel discussions, such as this one. So, an ardent supporter of the art community, you have been volunteering as the demonstration chair for the Georgia Watercolor Society, and formerly as the country representative for the USA chapter of the International Watercolor Society. And Diana, you are also often invited to judge and jury art shows, and you teach painting workshops at art centers within the US and abroad. So that's a little bit about Diana. And before we continue, would you like to mention any shows or anything like that you're most proud of? Like, what's something that you've participated in that just really, like, maybe as the young Diana Toma artist, you were like, God, if only I would ever fill in the blank. Some dream fulfilled. How about that?
Wow, good question. Interesting question. I think probably the whatever show I'm currently in, it's the most important to me, or most wonderful. Like right now, we're just the national show for Georgia Watercolor Society is about to open this Saturday in Carrollton, Georgia. I will be there to also record the awards ceremony via live Facebook video. So it's like having different children. You love them all, in different ways, but you cannot pick a favorite one. I've been taking part in exhibitions for so long, since I was a student in college in 1996, I think, or something like that. So every single show to me is just as exciting as the next one. This is one of the promises I made myself, not just with exhibiting my work, but also whenever I make sales of my work, that like I will not take it for granted, and I will be just as excited as I was when I did my first one. To feel that I don't want that to become like just a common blasé moment that I don't even acknowledge anymore. So I'm sort of adept of living present to every moment, and not so much in a projected future or wannabe sort of, but rather of what's happening right now, because I don't want to miss the flavor of what's actually happening in the present moment. I'm sorry to disappoint and not give you an exact answer for a certain show. It's been so many.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was just noticing in your description, you used words that were sort of general, like in several and in multiple. And so sometimes, like for me, I know Annette Cohn-Skelton of the Museum of Contemporary Art, Georgia, gave me a Best in Show award. And it was one of those things early on in my career where I thought, okay, I have aspirations of being an artist and, having my work go to certain places in the world. And so I was, very excited that like the head.
Yeah. I'm still figuring out. I know you're very focused on, like I've been watching you and following you a little bit. So I know you're very focused on particular places and where you want to get. I am more focused on the joy of painting, and then let that lead me to some places. So I'm not, it's just different ways. It's not one, I don't think it's one better than another, but I think for me, I'm putting all my energy and focus on really loving, enjoying what I do, what painting in different ways. And I have a beautiful rainbow right now happening. And then let that guide me to different opportunities. And so many things has happened that I never even thought, or I wouldn't have thought of, oh, I want this or that. They sort of happen out of following the path of the highest excitement. But one of the awards that I received stands out to me right now when you were mentioning that, because it was an art show, it wasn't a contest done by Michaels, you know, the retailer for supplies, art supplies. And it's, you know, it's a chain of stores throughout the entire US. So they had over 11,000 participants submitting, and I won the grand prize for that competition.
Awesome. Yes, and it isn't, and congratulations. And really, I was only pointing to that because I noticed that while I was sharing, you know, your bio, there was like a generalization around things that had happened. And so I wanted to point, sometimes when it's like we're specific, there's something that happens in creating that tangible moment. Yes.
Now that I've been put like in the position to also jury or judge shows, I cannot even imagine what it takes to judge over 11,000 submissions. Because usually the shows that I get to judge, maybe they're like 300 or something like that. And just the idea that you have to sort through 11,000 submissions.
Yeah.
And to be the one who won the grand prize, it was like winning the lottery in a way, but you know, like I just couldn't believe it. And the grand prize was an all expenses paid, cheap for two to Paris, France, where they gave us tours of the Louvre, prepaid private tours of the Louvre, and all kind of art, like flower arrangements classes, and all kind of other activities there. And it's just fun. I took my daughter, she was 13 back then, my oldest daughter was 13, and her and I went to Paris.
And, I'm glad I asked that question, because, you know, I was reading about that and I was thinking like, it piqued my curiosity, you know, because it was like an array of different awards. And I know that, you know, your work is remarkable. We have something we have in common is a collector who collects both of our work, right? So I get to see your finished pieces up, you know, at Rita's law office and her home. And, you know, and so that's something that's always really, you know, a joy, is to see our work together in certain collections. And and I always think of you, you know, and I know bits and pieces, you know, but I love getting those details. Details are so rich.
Another thing that came out of that, because see, as I was saying earlier, I follow the path of the highest excitement, and then these opportunities come my way. Actually, one of my students sent me a link to this contest. I say, why not? Let's apply for it. I never thought I would win that. But then out of this you know, award that had me travel back to Europe. I'm originally from Eastern Europe, but I've been to Paris one time before that, but my daughter's never been. So out of that trip, I've decided, I've created a thing that followed for years to come. Now it's stopped because of the pandemic, but I started taking 1 month off every summer just to travel somewhere, and just somehow creating some sort of project that would sponsor my my trip there. 1 year we did a tour of Romania, like tourists, for 3 weeks, I say we because I'm taking my daughter with me all the time. I have her 1 month with me every summer. I'm divorced, so that's part of the divorce agreement. So I travel with her. I've traveled with her every year. One of the years, I created postcard art and posted on Facebook, the traveling art. And people would purchase them with $40 a card. I would paint them as I go, and that like sponsored my entire trip there. Like, so art that you can touch, and like whatever I would stop by, I would paint these quick watercolor paintings, and then people would just want to grab one on social media. Other times, some of my students, one year, one of my students gave me the keys to her house in Apalachicola. I end up there spending a whole month painting right there by the ocean, and making connection with people who the next year invited me to their plein air festival. So, you know, it's sort of a snowball like this.
Yeah.
Now I say yes to one thing. Out of that one thing that I applied for, that one contest, a whole new life is being invented or created or inspired from. So that's what makes me so excited about not quite knowing exactly where I want to, and letting some sort of an element of serendipity to be involved.
Great. I love that. I love that word, serendipity. Well, so you shared a little bit about your travels. I have a couple questions for you. I know there was a period of time where we got to see a lot of your painting live, like at weddings and different events like that. Would you like to share a little bit about that? And I know at some point we're going to share some of your images on your Tumblr. And if you want to talk about something else, that's fine too. But it reminded me of that when you said, you know, when you start talking about traveling, because I've seen, you know, I love to follow you on social media, and you share so richly about what you're up to. And I saw a couple of paintings that you did like that. Would you like to share a little bit about that process, or how those
that's another one of those that I have not saw it. I didn't even know it exists. I didn't even know that artists paint live at events, you know. And yeah, I love to. Before I start that, I want to, you know, mention that sharing with what I do on social media, especially Facebook, is really made a huge difference for you know, how I create myself as an artist. I never really knew, like, I haven't had mentors growing up of people who are making a living out of art, so I had really no clue how that even looks like. So maybe back then I didn't, it was so disempowered that I even thought there isn't such thing. Art is not a real job or something in those lines. But I'm sharing both because I really love to connect with people, but also to sort of inspire maybe other people who are where I was when I had no clue how this could look like. And the live painting events came about. One of my local acquaintances, she's a very talented flower arrangement person. I don't know how you call that job.
Right.
But she was doing flower arrangements at weddings. So she reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you do any like live wedding painting?" I had to search it up because I didn't even know what that is. She says, "I want to write an article about you because I love your work, and like I've been creating these big bouquets, and I'm thinking, do you want to paint one of those? And can I sort of share that artwork? And you're gonna tell me like what is it that you do, and that will be my next blog post." And I said, "Sure, I do. Absolutely, I do." I've never done that ever, so like, why not? So she wrote this. I painted a couple of her floral arrangements, also with the bride holding one, and she wrote this article. And then about a couple of months later, I get a phone call and I say, "Hey, I read your article. Do you want to come to? I have this wedding happening in 1 month, and I want to surprise my sister-in-law with this present. I want you to paint live." It was an Indian wedding, and that was my first commission here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
think it was St. Regis Hotel or something like that, where I showed up with my easel, a big painting, a big size painting. It was 36 by 48. And that was the first time I've, painted live at the wedding, which was like so different because the Indian weddings are colorful. It's not the white dress that we're accustomed to. It's filled with crazy colors and textures. And it's just like, I just loved every minute of it. And ever since, like word of mouth, I still don't advertise this anywhere. I share about it on Facebook sometimes. It's not on my website, it's nowhere, but I've been inviting, I think I've done about 20 wedding painting commissions where I go.
Oh, wow.
I went through a bunch of cities in Florida as well. I even end up being published in a wedding magazine in Florida without me even knowing. Like, because I ask everybody, where do you know about this, that I'm doing this? It's like, oh, it was in the last issue of this. And I didn't even know. So sort of spread like that. And now I sort of figure out I love more to paint, and I paint the first dance of the newlyweds while they're moving. It's like, it's I would say it's the hardest commission I've ever done. I think, because I do take some photos as they move, but the idea is to capture the energy and the feel and have this fresh painting that you will have for the rest of your life out of this, like special, very heartfelt event. You'll always have photos, but painting is different. Painting is interpreting to the emotional filter something. So it's unique like that. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Thank you. I just wanted to hear a little more, and I thought it'd be fun for your for our viewers to get to hear a little bit more about that as well.
And then this sort of like ramificated in other. I was invited to paint at the spring party of some, or to the, like it just became a more. I still weddings the most that I do, but I would never call myself a wedding painter, or there's other like more specialized in it. It's just one of the things that I do out of my joy of painting.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Do you get commission work like that? That's like unexpected and come and create this.
I think the most unexpected, let's see. I think the most unexpected type of work I've ever done was the work I did around transforming guns into something beautiful. That was something that I was not on my radar at all. Yeah, and that started out with like,
like bend the metal and create a flower at the end, while you still keep the base of it recognizable. How did that come about?
Well, let's see. There were maybe like 2 or 3 different things that started that whole, as you use the word, snowball, right? Yeah. Which really, it wasn't something I sought after. It wasn't something that I even, just to be honest, thought about it. But I tend to, maybe similar to you, want to be a yes, right? Like there are plenty of times that I say no when people invite me to do something, but I try to really be a yes, because I have my own set of imagery and work that I like to work with, and to create this language and, all that, right? But every once in a while you get a surprise and you think, well, could be a synchronicity, right? Why not try something a little bit different or new? So in the case of the guns, originally it was a church. There was a woman from a church that messaged me off of my website and said, we'd like to do this swords into plowshares type of thing. And, she pointed me to a website of some gentlemen in Colorado that transform guns into garden tools, and they wanted to do that. And, she brought me this little tiny handgun. And when I researched, I realized we needed like a rifle, so anyway, so that started. And then it was like, I saw an art exhibition that some friends of mine curated at the Marshall Wood Gallery. And it was all art in response to guns. And so I was like, wow, this is so weird. Just yesterday, I was at a church in Vinings, with my forge transforming something. So we set up that I would do a kind of a performance art piece at the gallery where I would transform a gun, and it was right next to this giant blow up tank, like a balloon kind of blow up tank. And so that was the beginning. And then there was the Parkland shooting. And so there was a gentleman that was an Iraq vet. And evidently there was this movement among veterans where they wanted to really emphasize that guns were something that were not not guns all in all, but like semi-automatic rifles were not necessarily for civilians to mow down human beings. And so after the Parkland high school shooting, a gentleman brought me a gun, and he said, and we're going to have the AJC live. And he brought this AR-15, like one of those automatic rifles. And I was just like, what am I going to do with this thing? It's a tool of mass destruction. And my irises started blooming. And I thought, well, I've made flowers out of metal before. Why don't I try that? And so I did. And it was like, I tried it, and it was on film, and it's in AJC. You can look that up. And then there was another film that was made out of, the work that I was doing with that. And then Elton John ended up buying one of my pieces because
wow.
So sometimes when you take those surprise, unpredictable paths,
exactly, yeah,
something out of the ordinary, then new opportunities arise. So, but yeah, I think that's the most out of character kind of thing.
I love it, and I saw it was featured in some magazine too recently, like a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, a friend. Yeah, I was, and another reason to collaborate. Sometimes when you collaborate with people, not like I had no idea, the other artist that I was invited to collaborate on a film with was really good friends with Elton John, and he was so proud of the film. He sent it to him, and he was like, "Oh, I love what you're up to, but who's that other woman that's in the film with you? Do you think she has any more of those pieces of sculpture?" And
wow. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
rock star kind of moment, and kind of exciting. I never really got to meet him. He keeps to himself a little bit. So
it's just so fantastic.
Yeah. My friend made all the instruments for us, and he paid all the bills too. Big envelope. So enough about that. Now, Deanna, how do you feel about topic change? How do you feel about public art? We were talking earlier today, and I had noticed that you do a lot of painting, action paintings live, you do the plein air. But do you want to talk a little bit about, public art is something that's like near and dear to my heart and soul. I believe public art it's something that it's art for everyone, right? Like there's only a certain person that's going to walk into a gallery or a museum and look at art there. And when you create art and it's outdoors, it's open to the public. So I was curious if you had anything you wanted to share about that. I don't know, I could pull up an image of, I think it's your proposal for a new public art piece.
Yes, you can open it up if you want.
Yeah? Okay, great.
I'm really excited about this new project I'm about to do. Look at that. That's on the screen right now. It's a digital rendering of a mural I'm about to paint. I'm probably gonna start the end of this week or next week. That was just accepted by the city of Dunwoody. It was proposed there was a proposal I did for Spruill Center for the Arts, where I also teach. And they submitted it as a proposal for the city of Dunwoody. They have a wonderful budget they wanna for creating art around the city. And Spruill Center for the Arts has been a big a part of the arts community over there. So this is gonna be the biggest. I made this as a small. You know what? I have it right there. I can grab it. I'll grab it.
Okay. Yeah.
So it starts like this with a sketch I did in watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
Of that composition, and it's gonna be the biggest mural I'm going to paint to date. I think it's 24 feet long or something like that by 9 feet tall. And it's a sort of, it's called daydreaming, and it's about the creative process. So it has a lot of elements that this is the first time that I'm doing more like of this type of imagery that it's sort of fantasy piece in a way. So it has the moon cycles and this person who half of it is has normal skin color, and then the other half transforms into this drawing, this black and white drawing, and all kind of other supporting elements, as the owl who's flying to catch this mirror. The mirror are actually going to have a real piece of mirror in there to shine through, using all kind of symbolism. Then this rainbow reflects from a prism that the light passes through the mirror that the owl is about to catch. And then this butterfly that comes out of a cocoon. The cocoon is made out of a yarn that's unraveling and kind of goes through the entire painting to connect all the elements together. Because like thinking of Sproul Center for the Arts, one of the oldest art centers in Atlanta. I've been there for I think 45 years, and they have classes not just for painting and drawing, but for jewelry and sewing and metalworking and pottery and photography, and like a wide variety of art activities. So I wanted to make it be about Sproul and what happens here, a sort of like an imaginative piece of how creativity may look like from the myriads of infinite faces that creativity can take. Is just one sort of a metaphor for it. So I'm really excited to do this project and have not just because of the money aspect of getting work, getting commission for it, but also because Sproul is has been such a big part of my development as an artist, since I've been teaching classes there, and I've met about 800 people came through my classes. So I've created this whole community out of being there and teaching there. So this is one that goes really deep to heart for me, this project, this commission.
Great.
Hopefully it will turn out just as good as it looks right there, because it's so different, working on a big scale.
Yeah.
And also the wall it has like texture, and like drips probably gonna have to be sort of forced, like it won't be like natural as like would normally be on a piece of paper. So it's gonna be a lot of learning curve for me. I've painted murals before, but this is different. This is very ambitious.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see like how much I'm going to learn and discover technique-wise too out of this.
Yes, great. Well, while I have this site up, do you want me to share any other images that you have here? Is there anything?
Can scroll too, and so you can see some of the work that I'm, or at least the style of painting that I'm painting in. I think you have to go one more back up there in the top one.
Okay.
Yes. I like to call my style. One more time. One more. That's it.
You did it. I'm not so familiar with the Tumblr. This piece really struck me. When we were looking earlier today.
Yes, thank you.
Do you want to share a little about this? What inspired you to make this? It's almost not really surreal. What would you call this? Like kind of fantasy, I guess, or?
I think I'm slowly moving towards some sort of a more imaginative fantasy piece. It's like this this I'm actually creating a whole series on this theme of I call them hidden portraits, where uh, it actually, this piece started with painting from life in one of my workshops, turned upside down. It was a bouquet of flowers, of white flowers sitting on a table. Then I thought, like, what else can I do with this? So I turned it upside down and introduced a portrait in it later on. And I've been going through all my paintings that I've been doing as demos for my classes and see which one I could bring this sort of new element to them, turning them on one side. So these are paintings that I started. They were meant to be of some floral painting. Then later on, I come back. Some of them, I've also been doing this with oils as well, not just in watercolor. And I have now a body of work of maybe 9 or 10 pieces that have been blending this flower portrait, sort of like you don't quite see them unless you look more carefully. Are they, is it a portrait? Is it just flower bouquet? And I love that aspect of it when it's not given to you like clearly, explicitly from the beginning, and you have to pay a little bit attention to discover elements in it. So
great.
I was saying, like, I think I call this, I don't know how accurate I am, but I would call my style a sort of contemporary spin on impressionistic painting, because impressionism to me is painting how things feel like rather than how they look like. So they still are representational. I still have elements from life, like portraits and scapes and florals and wildlife. I love wildlife as well, but it's more about how that scene or that moment feels like. So it's a sort of emotional portrait of instance. So I've heard other artists who paint maybe in the same way, calling it different names, but in terms of style. But I'm sticking with the contemporary impressionism.
I like that. I haven't heard that term so much before. Contemporary impressionism. Right. Is this from when you went to Paris? This image?
This actually is in Las Vegas, the Paris, the strip in Las Vegas, and they have the Paris part of it. They have a mini Eiffel Tower there, and that's
okay.
That's, from Las Vegas.
Paris.
That was another trip that I took with my daughter, one of the months that I took just for traveling. We flew to Las Vegas and then rented the car, crossed the desert. It's so beautiful. And every night we would stop at a different Airbnb. And we went and
nice
from the entire Californian coast, from east to west, stopping somewhere every night just to, my daughter really fell in love with California. Actually, for years after that, she said, this is where I have to go. This is where I want to live.
Oh, that's wonderful.
First, she said she wants in Barcelona. From that trip we took to Paris, we ended up to Barcelona too. Now it was California. I said, hey, there's so many amazing places in this world. You're probably gonna fall in love with more others as well.
Great. Well, let me ask you one more question and then we'll open it up to the audience. I noticed that you have a particular style where there's this detail, there's this sort of like impeccable, skillful detail, but then there's this kind of almost explosion of energy. And then there's like part of the page that is left, I'm just going to say blank, like untouched. Do you want to, and I notice that's prevalent in a lot of your work, do you want to say anything about that?
I'm so happy you know this. Yeah, so what I really love in painting is to have the viewer see the process. So, you know, that's why leaving parts unfinished and leaving uh, um untouched paper or canvas is so you can actually see how things. So I love to show in my work how the process took place. So in some parts you will see the first wash, and in another part the two or three of them, and then where the focus of attention I bring the most work and detail of. And I love the contrast between that clear definition and then show the rest of the process and let it be unfinished, so you can see it's a painting and cannot be built in any other way than through painting. That's so unique to this medium of painting. And I love the looseness. I paint very fast. I think one of the characteristic about how I've developed my so-called style is like through painting really fast. So things start melting and mixing with each other because it doesn't have the time to dry yet. So therefore that look of explosive, like meltifying elements in there.
Great. Any other, we've got just a few more minutes left. Any other pieces you'd like me to feature that are here that is like your very favorite one, for instance? Sorry, I just went back to this one.
Let's see, you can just scroll to, I'm really in love with portraiture. I love that. That's maybe since I moved to New York, when I moved from Europe to New York, and New York City is like the place where you will see the biggest amalgam of people from all races, from all, like just taking a trip on the subway, it's like fascinating to observe how many faces, physiognomies. I used to take, this is before I even started painting portraits. I would take a little pads and do little sketches, hoping people would not see me while I was like riding the subways. Fascinating to see triangular faces and square and round and long and short and all kind of like that. That I think really started my love for just observing faces and painting portraits. And
Right.
That's sort of coming back in almost all my work. Somehow a portrait squeezes in somehow.
Great. Wonderful. Well, let's see. I'm going to stop our screen sharing for a moment here. Great. Well, we have a little bit of time left, and I thank you, Diana, for going into depth and going with the flow as we did. And I'm just curious if we have any. Oh, we've got a couple of comments in the chat here. Okay, from Vivian. I really love this. Congrats. This is so beautiful, romantic. Maybe you were talking about the have a question you wanted to, or more comment? Oh, you're on mute, Vivian.
I see Betsy's on.
Yeah, I want to ask, I want to come see you in Dunwoody. Can we watch you when you're painting?
Why not? Yeah.
Do you, where's it going to be? Or can you make an announcement or something on Facebook or something so I can follow you?
Yes, I don't know exactly the date. I have to discuss the date and the process with the CEO, and probably it's going to happen today or tomorrow. And I'm thinking to put to record it on speed lab, or how is it called? Speed, I like that function where you like take a photo every 10 seconds.
Yeah. Time lapse. Time lapse.
So, but yeah. It's probably gonna take about a week, I'm imagining, and it's a scroll center for the art on the main entrance. So if you pass in front of it, you cannot miss it. And yeah, that's a great idea. I'll make an announcement, but then maybe too many people will come, and I have to talk to everyone, and I don't. Let's see how that works.
That week that you projected just turned into 3 weeks.
Yes.
Maybe you could announce certain days that you're having visitors to come. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe a couple days doing it.
I love it. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Vivian.
So I know that you have lots of things in watercolor, and I love watercolor too. So when you try like oil, how do you feel? Is it still watercolor your favorite media, or you just have changed? How do you feel about these two type of medias? They're so different.
Yes, great question. And I paint in acrylic as well. I have a love for, I've initially started learning to paint in oils when I was 18 years old. So I fell in love with the oil medium, so especially watercolor is sort of recent, maybe 7, 8 years ago, I've started becoming interested in it. Each has such wonderful characteristic, but watercolor is so portable, and it's a delicate, it's a soft medium. It cannot be like you bring a different type of energy to that. Like you cannot abuse it too much. You have to let the white of the paper become your white color. There is no white. This is a completely different approach and it's ethereal to me. It's like it feels like so delicate, and so I think it's up to the mood that I'm in. Sometimes I don't feel so delicate, and I don't feel so, and then I just love the canvas that like it takes abuse, and you can like smash it and like ruffle it and create texture. And like I love how the oil smells like earthy, and and acrylic I've been using for large surfaces because it takes forever to dry. So I use acrylic in an oil manner. It's just for larger surfaces, like these murals, for example. So I think it each has sometimes I feel like, should I just stick with one and maybe explore more in it? And then other times I feel like, no, this is part of, because it's just like all rounded. It just gives me more opportunities to explore with ideas, by using.
Yeah, good answer. Thank you. I feel, I like when you say, sometimes you feel like abusing it. Like,
You cannot do that with watercolor, right?
Yeah,
the paper, right? So then you can take that creative energy to a nice thick piece of canvas.
Yeah, that's right. Good. That's wonderful.
Great. Well, let's see. We are sort of at the end of our time, but if we could take maybe one more question, if there is another question in the house.
Okay, so I can ask, do you feel like, with watercolor, you cannot go back a lot? Do you feel like if you have some more planning to do on a painting, would you choose more acrylic or oils because you can go back in something that doesn't work? Do you tend to do that, to think ahead and think, oh, this I might use acrylic because I have more flexibility if I need to change something as the painting progresses?
Absolutely not. I think there are two schools of thoughts in terms of watercolor. One is, and they're both valid, they're just very different in approach. So one school of thought is the one that builds up and carefully, and it's sort of the school of thought that would say watercolor is unforgiving, that way you have to make sure you don't have backwashes and smudges and this, like you want it pristine. You build from light to dark, you wait for it to dry, and it takes a big amount of time to complete paintings. And there's this other school of thought that I sort of adhere to that says, oh, watercolor is a wonderful medium for spontaneity and free flow and accidents, and backwashes become part of the charm of the painting, and smudges is like welcome, and so it's like not trying to control it. It's kind of like in this school of thought, trying to control watercolor is like trying to train your cat, and in that school of thought, the school of thought, it's like training your dog, like that works. But in this school of thought, it's like sort of pointless, So no, I use watercolor just the way I would use oils and acrylics, and I consider it very forgiving until it breaks. Okay, when paper breaks, it's good. But I lift and I add and I splash and it's all like in more of a sort of a painting release like that, and it's not very carefully planned out. It's just the way that I enjoy approaching it. It's not the way, it's just one of the many ways you could approach it, but I enjoy it the most because I get results fast. I can finish the painting in one sitting most of the times and just tweak it a little bit later, like just 5 minutes or something like that. And I don't know, but I don't know about others, but I really love to have fast results and finish, I maybe this age that like everything's fast paced, just, and it's just more conducive to painting more often, I would say.
Well, that was my question. Since watercolor you cannot plan, it's just like it's so prone to just being more spontaneous when you have something that needs more controlled approach, but it just doesn't matter for you. So that's great. I love the way you do your watercolor. I really do. I'm just passionate. The way you do it is it's just so emotional for me. It's just beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah. By the way, Viviani here is the Georgia Watercolor Society president, and she knows a lot about watercolor, and it's just so wonderful to hear this word.
Well, and I'm so glad that you are with us, and anybody that wants to be with us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Vivian, for being here, and thank you for your introspective questions. And Diana, thank you so much for coming and being a part of this this program today. And I've even gotten to take classes with you in the past, and it's been a lot of fun.
I have to take one of yours too. Like,
yes,
I haven't done any metal working.
Oh, we'll have to make an occasion for that for sure. And I'm dying to see your new home as well. I know you were posting lots of photographs of it when you first, got there. And
I'm working right now with creating a plein air garden, so
I love it. I love it. I have a friend that grows a lot of wildlife plants. I should connect you with her, so because they don't take as much maintenance also,
Yes, that's what I'm all about. No maintenance, perennials, so they can come back on their own.
Yeah.
It's just this soil I have here has been abused by Roundup by the previous owners every year. So it's a hard work, but I'm doing it.
Good. Yes, I'll connect the two of you. Her name's Pondra Williams, and I can't think right now of the name of her. She's got a whole nursery, and she propagates the plants, and she's such a stand for, the native wildflowers and blooming trees and all of that kind of thing. And so, she has a whole farm outside of Athens, and she's oftentimes at different events with them and does plantings and stuff. So I'll have to introduce you to her. And because really the native plants, they do so well, because they're supposed to be here.
If you don't have deer around it, then they think, dinner is ready.
Dinner is ready all the time. Yeah.
I love.
It's just I have a
sculpture you made with the feathers, which also reminds me of sort of like, wildlife, and it was just gorgeous, splendid. The one you said you just had it installed.
Yeah.
That's just, I want one of those here somewhere around my house.
That's great. You know, there's a garden in France called that a lot of the Art Nouveau artists. It's in the town of Nancy, Nancy, like Nancy, but it's pronounced Nancy, near Luxembourg in Belgium. In France, though, still. And there's a garden and a place where people would kind of come together and gather, designers and artists. And you know, in Art Nouveau, there were all these flower influences in the motifs, right? Irises and, you know, kind of these big giant dandelion things. I think it's called Le Jardin d'Inspiration, right?
I have to check that out. That sounds.
Yeah. If you Google garden, Art Nouveau, the city of Nancy, it'll come up. I visited it many years ago, maybe 15 years ago. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. I probably have slide film images of it because I was doing I received a grant.
Now, 15 years later, it must have changed and done all kind of.
Oh, it's from the 20s. It's from like, you know, but it's been maintained and kept up. And then there's a museum with furniture and like, you know, that Art Nouveau bed that has the big butterfly, the moths actually.
Yeah.
That's actually there. There's all these beautiful Art Nouveau pieces of furniture and art pieces, Robert Mucha and some Lalique glass. I mean, beautiful, beautiful Art Nouveau style. But they had this whole garden and they would grow all of the plants that were inspirational towards the motifs that they were using. And the plants are still there in the garden. You can walk throughout it.
I'm humbled so much about the creativity of humankind, really, and so many amazing artists out there doing so many spectacular things. It's changing, like it improves the quality of life. Like this is how I see it. It's phenomenal.
Wonderful. Well, I was going to ask what your last words were, but that was so profound. Any other last words?
Thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for being here. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Karina.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you. I loved it.
Bye. Thank you for joining Connect and Create. And we'll see you next week.